Hi everyone, this is Barbara Beckman. Today I'm going to be showing you what I use with my Gelli prints. These are the prints that aren't fancy prints, the ones that I spend a lot of time on. Those I use for my art journaling and other projects. But these are for these are like my ugly prints. So what I do is I work in a Canson mixed media pad here, and it takes a beating, this pad. I'll put a link to it below. It holds a lot of glue, a lot of water. It just takes a beating, and I really beat it up. I add a lot of paint, a lot of inks, a lot of distressed inks, a lot of paper on top of it, so I need a good pad that's going to hold up to my abuse. So what I do is I just lightly sketch out my drawing. It takes me no more than 10 minutes to do this. There's no detail to any of this. It's just kind of basically blocking in my composition and where I think I want things to go. Definitely not carved in stone. Just like I said, getting an overall idea of where I want things to go. So these are very inexpensive acrylic paint that I had laying around. These are the Reeves brand. I believe they're a student grade. They're really my daughter's paint, and she's 8 years old. So before they dried up and they were going to be thrown in the garbage, I decided to use them here. So it's just an underpainting, so it doesn't really matter the quality of paint that I'm using underneath here. I'm just blocking in shapes at this point, and these colors are also going to change. I'm just looking for contrast right now to help me determine where my paper piecing is going to be laid down on. It's a very quick process. Again, I spent about 10 minutes on this from start to finish, and it goes very, very quickly, and these colors are definitely going to change. It depends on what papers I'm grabbing from my stash pile that I'm going to put on top of this. Now, the reason why I personally do an underpainting is because if I miss a piece with my paper when I'm cutting out the shapes, you're not going to see any big white areas anywhere on the paper. It's going to all be colored in. So it looks pretty much of a hot mess right now, and that's fine. Hot messes are good. Sometimes, you have to go through the process and things look really bad. A lot of artists early on stop when things look really bad and they just give up. But you just got to keep pushing through until you get to the end. It's a process, and you just need to enjoy the whole thing. Put some music on, relax, enjoy it. And yeah, it's going to look pretty bad, but at the end, you're going to have your masterpiece. And I'm telling you, it's going to be worthwhile because it's a lot of fun to just be creative and to just, put down what's inside you wanting and needing to get out onto this paper. And that's how I feel. I can't describe it any other way. So here are my hot mess, what I call my hot mess papers, and they're not papers that are so pretty that I don't want to use anywhere else. So I picked these because I do add some acrylic paint on top of them. I'll add some inks, I'll add some distressed inks, I'll add alcohol inks, so I can change the color slightly, but I still want to see all that texture, and I want to see the patterns that are on the paper coming through. So that's why I choose to use these. But these are not like my favorite ones. These are ones that, may have been ghost prints that I pulled up paint the last minute, or that got stuck together because I don't let anything dry. I'm so impatient. I just kind of, as I jelly print, I see people hanging them up on these little nice, beautiful hangers like clotheslines. I don't do that. I kind of throw them on my floor, on my desk. They're piled everywhere, and sometimes they overlap and get stuck together. So yeah, they're going to dry and get stuck together. So when I peel them apart, you're going to see like white rip lines on there, or white like paper, yeah, like that one. Yeah, so these are kind of like my ugly ones, but I utilize them, and you can make them into something really pretty if you just are patient and willing to go through the process. I just happen to really enjoy it, so for me, I enjoy the whole process of it. You do have to have patience to do this. I'm not going to lie and tell you this is easy. It could be frustrating at times, but I put music on, or I'll put the TV on, and I just come in my art studio and I relax. So I'm going through all these papers now that I've made that are my ugly ones, and I'm just pulling out papers that I think will work with my overall idea that I have in my head. And I'm looking for papers too that I can change the color of, something that I can add another color over and would work well for what I'm doing. So this was a kind of a cool, it had like a harlequin kind of pattern. It was orange, it was had some yellows in it, and I thought it would make a great pumpkin. I did go over this with some paint, but you can see it. You can see all that texture, even though the color is a little bit changed. So I'm using Distress Ink. I started out with that originally. That's what I usually use, but I was having some trouble with it tonight. So I ended up switching and using alcohol markers. So I'll be grabbing one of those in a minute. Let me just tell you what they are. They're alcohol markers, and they're made by a company called Nicole, and they're called Premier. And they're dual tips, so they have a chisel tip on one edge and a smaller, finer tip on the other. And they're great. They're inexpensive. They were from AC Moore, and I got to use a coupon on it for 50% off. So they're probably like $20, and there's probably 20 of them, at least 20. So they're probably $1 a marker. Now, they do dry out a little bit. Tops are pretty securely on there as well, so I don't really know why they're drying out so much. This is my first set of these. I like Spectrum New York much better, but these were on sale, and I wanted to see how they worked. So all I had to do, though, to get it to rejuvenate was to fill up a little, I used the cap of the alcohol bottle, just some rubbing alcohol, and I dipped the chiseled edge into the alcohol, the pen tip into the alcohol, and I let it absorb it, and then it kind of rejuvenated it, and it allowed me to go around the circles, the circle here, the face, after I cut it out. And what I'm doing basically, not so much to give it a shadow, I mean it does help, but a lot of the Mod Podge that I'm using will actually take away that alcohol ink, but I'm going around the very edge of it so you can't see any of the white of the cardstock. Now I did use Neenah cardstock for this. I think I purchased it at Target. I believe some of like Staples has it as well, and Office Depot. And I'll put a link to everything that I'm using below. So, and if I forget to put anything down, please, shoot me an email or leave me a comment. I'll definitely get back to you. But this is the Neenah Bright White cardstock that I'm using. It's 65-pound weight. There's 80 sheets in this pack. It was not expensive. It was probably $8. It's a nice heavyweight cardstock that I like to use for some of the jelly printing. I also print on deli paper too, and that's super fun. I usually do that for my art journals though, and I spend more time on those papers. So these work well for this. So here's my pen, and I've just rejuvenated it with some alcohol. So here I'm just hitting the very tips of it, spreading it around my finger, because you have a little bit of time to push it around, but not too much because it dries very quickly. The Mod Podge breaks it down, as I was saying. You can see it kind of defeats the purpose. It does take it off. But when it's dry, I go back in and I can put some of those shadows back in. But you can see, you don't see that bright white edge where I've cut the paper. So I just block out some of these faces pretty quickly, and then I decided to do a couple leaves at a time before I made myself absolutely bonkers. So I drew out one leaf, and I used that as my template. So I did like 5 at a time, and then I take a break, go on something else, come back, do 5 more of different colors. I grabbed several different colors because leaves are so colorful, and I wanted to have such a variety of leaf color. So instead of stressing myself out and making 50 leaves or 60 leaves all at once, I did a few at a time. I turn it upside down, the paper, so I'm not looking at exactly what colors I'm getting, and that's fine because I don't really care what they are. I'm going to hit these leaves too with a little bit of glazed color, and what I mean by that is sometimes I'll take some glazing liquid by Folk Art. It's just a medium extender. I'll put a link to everything, like I said, and it just gives it like a light glaze where it's not thick. You can still see through it. You can still see all the patterns through it, but I'll do that throughout too. So here I have a piece of paper that's ripped and torn that I actually like, and I thought it would make a good pot. So I cut this out quickly, even though the top's all messed up. I know I'll be covering it with the mums. I'm going to put like mums in that pot too. So I'm just blocking in shape. That's what I'm doing mostly, is blocking in the shapes. Now I'll be doing the back. I'll be doing everything. I'm not going to show you everything because we would be here forever, but you'll get an idea of how I did this. So here I am using that marker again, the alcohol marker, and I'm just kind of knocking down the sides and giving it some dimension and some shadowing, and it goes along quickly. See how it kind of makes it pop out without making it too outliney like a cartoon character? But that's how I did it. I'm always looking to see maybe what goes underneath. Like there, I wanted to put the pants on the Scarecrow. So I just, before I covered it up with my pie, I just decided to cut out some of his pants here quickly. So you kind of have to plan it out in your head. Go slowly and you'll be able to piece it together as you go. No, don't stress about it. Just have fun. You can really make some interesting things this way. And you can use this technique for other things. You don't have to do this, big elaborate thing with paint. You could do little cards, smaller scale things without the paint, with just the paper piecing, or you can add the paint to it or inks to it. Just, whatever you want to experiment. That's how I learned how to do this. It's all from experimenting through the years. This all stems from paper dolls when I was a little girl. And I used to play with them all the time. I had two elderly aunts that were in their 80s who kind of watched me when I was about 5 years old. They lived with us. So I would make my own paper dolls back then. And then I would make like storyboards with them and tell them stories. They were a little overprotective, and we sat out in a front porch many hours. So that's where I think the love came from. So I'm just using a Target gift card here, and I'm just pulling off some of that glue. That's what I'm doing here. They work great, gift cards or anything plastic like that, that you don't need anymore. I use those as my scraping tool. They're great for applying paint onto canvases or in your art journal. So I like this blue. I thought it was kind of neat. It was like a midnight blue with some black. And I decided to put this down below. It's all pretty roughly done. Nothing's perfect at all. If I make a mistake, you can't really notice it. That's why it kind of changes, and I don't worry about that underpainting, because I know that underpainting is going to change. So where these two sheets meet up, because I'm going to have one on the right, and then I'll be cutting another piece to go on the left side of this bottom part. I just kind of overlap other pieces of paper across that seam, and it just kind of tricks and fools your eye that you don't really even know there's a seam there at all. I'm very heavy with the glue because this is the thick white cardstock, the Neenah cardstock. So I'm very generous with it. This one is the Mod Podge, and it's in the matte, not the gloss. I like the matte for this much better. You could also use Elmer's glue with a little water, or Aleene's tacky glue with a little water. I don't generally add water to this, although you could, because it is a little thick compared to what I'm used to using when I use the Aleene's glue. But it works well, and it holds it pretty securely on there. So it was working. I'm not going to mess with it. So I just keep flipping the paper back up just to kind of eyeball where this guy is sitting down and where the edges are of that flower pot. Again, it's not carved in stone. If I make a mistake, I can change it. You're better off cutting a piece too big rather than too small, obviously. Because cut it too small, you're going to see underneath it. But that's why we have the underpainting also. It's going to help us. But you can see in the middle there's those two, right where I'm actually wiping the glue there, you can see the seam. So I just put a couple pieces of paper, that same colored paper, back and forth across it, and it just tricks your eye. You don't even notice it. So again, I'm not going to show you everything because we would be here forever. I was thinking actually of putting this up on Patreon, just very slow. So I joined Patreon a long time ago, and I have a whole bunch of videos that I've worked on that I need to get up there to start posting, but I've just, honestly, it was summertime and I have 4 kids, so I was too busy. I took them to Disney, I took them to Universal in Florida, so I enjoyed my summer, and Patreon sat in the back burner. So this might be going up there because it is a long video, and you could really see step by step. I'll provide more detail exactly what I did. I just wanted to give you an overall idea here. Now, don't forget, it goes through its hot mess stage, that terrible, ugly stage, and it's all like blurry and kind of like cloudy because the glue is wet. It's still drying. I'm constantly moving things around and changing my mind, and that's okay. Just, you know, work it out as you go. It's just about enjoying the process and having a good time. So those leaves here, I was cutting them out for hours, I felt like, but they came in handy and they did their job, and I was able to change some of the colors with some acrylic paint if I didn't like them. So, you know, don't stress. I mean, I can't tell you that enough. It's just put it down there. If you don't like it, peel it back up. So what? You rip something underneath it, who cares? Put something over it. That's, you know, sometimes that's how those happy accidents happen. And you'll learn too. You'll learn if it's too busy. Like, this was really busy. This is a crazy busy one. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I wanted all these fall things in there. I wanted something colorful. And I wanted the chance today to just sit down. This took me a day to do. Not a day. It took me like probably 3 hours to do. But I didn't want to do anything else today. I just felt like, you know, I was busy. I've cleaned past 2 days. I got everything kind of up in order. I got some house portraits under my belt here today. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down while kids are in school and play in my art studio for a little while. I can't work all the time, right? If you work all the time, you can make yourself crazy. So this is what I do. This is my playtime. My own kind of art, right? It's nice to have an art as my my job every day, but it does get hard, you know, when it's commissions. I mean, like I said before, they have to look like what I'm being commissioned to paint, so it can be stressful. And I have deadlines too. I do a lot of work for realtors. They give my house portraits as closing gifts, and I have deadlines to meet. You know, if a closing is coming up soon, you know, sometimes those dates change and they close a little early, and I have to be ready. So it can be stressful. So this is like my stress-free kind of art. So right now I'm just cutting out those little like hay for their arms and their hair, and I'm just grabbing it with the wet paintbrush. It's just easier. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm almost at the end of this video. Before I leave, I just wanted to say, please leave me a comment. I'd like to know if you like these kind of videos, if you like what I'm doing, if you'd like to see more of them, or if you have any questions, or if I forget to list something specifically that I might be using. I use anything on hand. I mean, don't go out and buy anything special. You don't need to. Whatever you have in your art room, I'm sure if you're watching this, you have an art stash. So you don't have to use what I'm using. You can be creative, use what you have on hand. And that's a good thing, you know, about art supplies, is that you can break the rules. You can kind of go outside that box. Nothing, you know, has to be perfect. It's art, and use what you have. But if you like the videos, please subscribe to the channel. You know, that's letting me know that you know, what I'm doing actually is making somebody else smile, or, you know, teaching somebody how to do something, you know, that I've developed or come up with over the years. A lot of the stuff is experimentation, or, you know, watched other people do certain things, and I've just implemented it and changed it to fit my style. So let me know if you like it, and please leave a comment, or if you don't like it, if you think they're too long, or I'm talking too much, or they're too busy, don't be afraid to hurt my feelings and say, you know what, your composition sucks. It's okay. I mean, that's how I'm going to learn too. So we're all in this together, and it's all about enjoying yourselves, and it's a process, and learning, and just creating and having a good time. So yeah, so leave me a comment. I would really appreciate that. There's other videos too. I have another one that I really love that I did, a beautiful angel. She's one of my favorites. I took a lot of time on her. She is also up here. I think there's 2 angels actually. They're made from the same pattern. I have a pattern that's downloadable that will be on my website. It was supposed to be there, but I had problems with it. So I've been getting bombarded with emails. You know, where is it? Where is it? But yeah, it's coming soon. I apologize for that if anybody has tried to download that. But she is on my computer, and I just want to work out the the details in that. I don't want to put something up there for sale and then you buy it and it doesn't work properly. So that's why I took her off, and I apologize, but the video is still up. So yeah, so subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of these things. You might see some other things along the way too, like my portraits or whatever I'm into. Might be a painting party or preparing for a big fundraiser. I try to post like a day in the life of an artist. This is what I do for a living. This is what I do every day. You know, when I'm not doing it for my job, I'm self-employed. I don't work for anybody else. But when I'm not doing it for my job, I do it for fun. So yeah, it definitely is who I am. I've been creating since I was very, very young, and it's just a part of me. I can't imagine life without art. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of different things on my channel. You will not just see paper piecing. So here are those markers. There's a whole chunk of them over there. Like I said, I think they were $20, so those were worth it. I'm having a lot of fun with them. You know, they're not Copic markers, but they're not bad. And my son's 14, and he's been grabbing them, and he's been having a good time learning. So he's working his way up to Copics, I guess. So they had a lot of different color choices. So really what I'm doing here is if there was anything that I wanted to do, like I added some of the blush to the cheeks, I added the eyes, I added the nose to them, I added some little of the fine details. And that's what I was doing with these markers. Brightening up some of the oranges, they were great for that. And helping me with some of that straw. I wanted some of the yellow to pop out a little bit more, so I used it there too. They have really, really beautiful colors, I have to say. They don't blend as well as Copics, but you know, they get the job done. They're great on tiles too. I like to play with them on tiles. And they are alcohol based, so they work well on the tiles. It doesn't come up too. Like you can keep them, you can paint on your tile and it's pretty much on there. So yeah, I was just trying to make some plaids and stuff, like, you know, traditional Scarecrow shirts. And that's what I mean by using different things to help you out. So I had a lot of choices of paper here. It looked very busy at this point, and I thought, what the heck am I doing all this time and everything spent on this? And it's just so busy that I didn't know, my eyes were all over the place, kind of like my life. But once I decided to, I put like round circles there for the mums, and they just didn't look great. They were bothering me. So not a big problem. All I did was I needed to ground it. I figured I needed to change it because there was too many colors going on. It was too busy. But I still liked all that pattern, and I wanted to see it coming through. So what I just did was I took some of the acrylic paint, that cheap acrylic paint, the Reeves brand, and I just kind of made suggestions of leaves, or the flower petals rather. So you can still see it like in person. It's hard to photograph that. I don't think it comes out that great. I'm taking it with my cell phone, so actually my cell phone seems to be better than my Canon these days, to be honest with you. But you can't really get a true picture. I tried my best to take some, but it was really hard. So at the end here, if you just hang on a little bit, you can see the finished product. And I also took pictures of it on like a not looking straight down on it. I took it on the side so you can see all the texture and layering. It is quite heavy, this page, I must say, because there's a lot of paper on here and a lot of glue. That glue weighs a lot. You'd be surprised. So wait to the end or speed it up and you can see how it came out. So all the colors that are on the paper here, I wanted to just brighten up. I still wanted them there. So I felt like some of them just weren't bright enough for me. Like I said, they're probably ghost prints, some of them. So I just utilized whatever color was there. I just grabbed the marker. And I'm spreading it around with some alcohol, rubbing alcohol. See, I love the paper on the bottom. The bottom paper came out really well where they're sitting. Just kind of trying to define his arms and make him pop out a little bit more. So I'm always thinking of contrast. You know, I want to put my lights and darks together, obviously, because then something will pop out. So the alcohol is helping me push it out. If you can see here, I had a very harsh line, and now I'm just softening those edges. My desk is a mess. I've been working all week on different projects that I have. Christmas time's coming up, believe it or not. Gosh, that's so scary. But I'm getting a lot of commission houses because people give those as gifts. So my desk is like exploded. But I knew I needed this time for myself today. And I didn't clean up my desk. I just left it a mess. But I cleaned up after I finished this. So sometimes I don't care. I have to push it aside because, like I said earlier, if I don't make time for myself to just explore and to have fun, then I forget why I became an artist in the first place. And that would be really sad because it truly makes me happy and it makes other people smile. I know that because I hear from people constantly, you know, that they just were happy. So when they watched the video or when they tried something that I showed them how to do. So if I can make one person happy, then you know what? I've done a lot. So I'm almost done at the end. This is where I went in and I just added, I needed to ground those mums and do something because they were a little bit too busy. So I just took some red acrylic paint and not a lot of detail, just one little brush stroke here and there. And I gave the indication that there were some petals. And that red really works anyway because it's nice like maroon kind of color for fall. But it kind of just helped with the overall composition. So that's what I mean, like you can change things at any time and make it work for you. Just take your time. In the end, this came out pretty well. It was a lot of fun. You know, yeah, there's changes I would definitely make, but it's colorful, it's happy, and I'm really happy with it. So I hope you like the video. I hope you like my artwork. I'd love to hear from you to, you know, hear what you think, any suggestions or what have you. So we're at the end here now. Please subscribe again and please leave me the thumbs up or the thumbs down. It really helps me to see the comments and those remarks. So I know, you know, maybe to change things up next time. Okay, there it is. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye now.